Hi everyone. We're going to make exercise 8 today. So look at this. This is the front profile of this. So you can see it would be a very straightforward one, except for this little slot that's cut out of there. But it occurs to me that we could probably make this profile, create another sketch on this face here and do a remove extrude to make that little slot. So I think that's how I'd like to go about it. So we're going to start by making this shape. Now, if we analyze this shape, it looks like we've got a couple of, like about 4 circular things going on here. We've got 2 actual circles and then some kind of, bigger circular profiles around the side with a few curves, a straight point, a little rectangle down here. It's a somewhat complex shape, but not super crazy. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some construction lines, one that's horizontal this way, and then one that probably goes right up the middle. So let's look over here. I've got exercise 8 started. And yes, my workspace units are millimeters. And it looks like we're going to want to, based on this isometric view, it looks like we're going to want to make that on the front plane. So I'm going to right click on the front plane, start a new sketch, hit N to look normal, P to hide the planes. And let's go ahead and start with those construction lines. So I'm going to create a construction line that goes like this. And then another one that goes something like this. Okay. And let's go back and see what we have here. So we've got 2 circles that are 20 in diameter that are 50 apart. And I think I'm going to make one of them and use the symmetric constraint to hold them in line. So actually I'll make both of them and then do that. So let's start off with a circle out here that is 20. And let's move that up and out of the way. And then let's make a second circle over here somewhere. Click. And then I'm going to use the equals constraint to make them both 20 in diameter. I'm going to use the symmetric constraint to make it so they're the same distance from the center. And then I'm going to put that dimension of 50 up here. We can get an idea of the scale of what we're looking at. Okay, so we've got that. Now, again, it looks like we have circular profiles, at least for part of this. And these have a diameter of 35, which means they would, well, actually, we can just make them circles with a diameter of 35. Thought that was going to be a radius, but it's a diameter, so that's helpful. So let's go ahead and make some circles, start them on the same center point, click. I'm going to make that 35. And then instead of making the other one 35 with a dimension, I'm going to click it and accept it and then use the equals constraint to make it a 35. That's just because I like to see as few dimensions on my sketch as possible. Okay, now looking at the top, it looks like we have this kind of arc with a radius of 50 that connects these 2 circles. So I'm going to get my 3-point arc. Click here, come down a little bit, click, and I'm going to type 50 because that does have a radius of 50. And then I'm going to make them tangent because that's what's going to lock these in and make them black. Okay, now moving down here, it's not so cut and dry what's going on. We've got this arc that I'm sure this is tangent to the curve over here, but what's not clear to me is whether it becomes vertical at this point, and it's hard to tell. And I seem to remember from making this one in years past that it's more complicated than you think. So what I think I'm going to do to actually help this process out is I'm going to sketch this rectangle down here. And if you notice, it's 10 wide and 45 high. And it seems to me that the center of it would be right on our center line. So I'm going to use a center point rectangle. Start on this line, click and drag up, make it 10 by 45. Okay, now, move that out of the way so it looks nicer. We have some other dimensions to put in. So if you notice, it's also 87. The bottom of this rectangle is 87 from the line that aligns our circles. So let's put that dimension in. I'm going to go from the center of one of the circles to this line. Let's make it 87. Okay, so now what's that going to do for us? Well, let's see. The big question, like I said, is if I make a 3-point arc that connects from here to here, can I make it the proper radius, 25, and not make my whole drawing go red? Oh, wait, but we also have these two segments that stick out a little bit. And if you notice, the overall width of that segment is 20. So let's make a line that does that. So I'm going to get the line tool, come out here maybe, and come across and make that 20. And then to make it centered, I'm going to use a symmetric constraint. So I'm going to get symmetric to this line, these 2 points. All right. I'm going to actually, I guess that's okay if I leave it there. Just don't want it in the way. Now, what I'm going to try here is I'm going to try to make a 3-point arc with a radius of 25 that connects this point to this point. And again, I'm going to click and make it 25. Now, I'm going to try to make a tangent constraint between here and here. If this makes it go red, then we're going to have to try something else. So let's get the tangent constraint. I'm going to go from here to here. Nope, it doesn't. So it looks like we can just assume that it never actually went straight here. Very hard to tell, but actually if it went straight, I feel like they would have to have some dimension there to define how long it was straight for. So that's great. And what I can do now is use the mirror to duplicate that. I'm going to go like that and duplicate it. And now I have a fully constrained drawing, but I'm going to do some trimming. I'm going to trim these pieces off. And I'm going to trim these pieces off. Uh-oh. I should have known better than to do that because I took that line away. Okay. That last part was not a good idea. So I'm going to make it go black again. And I'm going to leave it like that because when we go to extrude it, we're going to be fine. It doesn't matter if there's a line there. We can just extrude it in 2 parts. So let's accept the sketch. I'm going to right click, make it isometric. And let's see how far out we need to extrude. It looks like the width of this part is 20. So let's do an extrude. And let's make it 20. And notice I said we were going to have to click on multiple areas. And we do. And there it is. So there we go. We've got what we need. Now we need to make this 10 wide and 35 high cutout. Okay. So I'm going to make a sketch on this face. New sketch. Hit N to look at it. Now, one of the things I want to show you is if I, well, actually, no. I was thinking we could use the symmetry of the front plane, but look, it's not, look where it's located. It's not, it's kind of off to the side. So what we're going to have to do is make a construction line that gets that, what do you call it, midpoint. And I could go either up or down. I think I'm going to go down just so it's out of the way. I just need that as a line of symmetry. And you'll see why in a second. I'm going to get my corner rectangle this time. Actually, no, that wasn't smart. I'm going to actually drag that line back up this way. And you're going to see why, because then if I go back and use that center point rectangle, I can click right on that line. And I'm going to drag it down till it touches down here. And I'm going to click. Okay. Now, oh, darn it. I could have made my, you know what? Let's try that again. I want to make my, my dimensions as I'm sketching. And remember, this thing was supposed to be 10 wide by 35 high. So I'm going to click on here, go down to here. I'm going to click and say 10 and then 35. And look, it's already black because I put the center point of that rectangle on this midpoint aligned construction line. It made it symmetrical. And then we got the right dimensions that we wanted and we're done. So we're going to move it off to the side a little bit. I'm going to do a remove extrude, click that profile. I'm going to say through all and hit accept. And there's my part. And there you go. That's exercise 8. All right. See you on the next one.